Hello, and thank you for joining me. So I've not really been one for Halloween. I viewed it as a recent import from the United States, and I've refused to send my own children out begging for treats. How very, very miserable of me. However, looking into the traditions of Halloween, I've discovered that it's actually celebrated around the world, with traditions tracing back centuries to the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain. Samhain marked the Celtic New Year and was held on the 31st of October at dusk, halfway between the autumnal equinox and the winter solstice, to celebrate the transition from the lighter half of the year to the darker half. Part of the Samhain tradition was a fire festival that was celebrated on the Hill of Ward in County Meath, Ireland, where the Celtic priests would light a huge fire and throw on it all the bones from the animals that had been sacrificed as part of the celebration. These bone fires is where the term bonfire that we use today comes from. Everybody would light a torch from the bonfire and then carry that flame home to relight their own hearths, taking from the communifier to symbolise their connection to each other and the community. Samhain was outside of time, belonging neither to summer nor to winter. It was a time, therefore, of transition, and as such, the Celts believed that the veil between the worlds of the living and the dead was thinnest. This meant that the dead could return, especially those who had died in the past year. It was a time for them to say goodbye and move on. When Christianity arrived in Ireland in the 5th century, the Christians found it easier to convert people to their faith by incorporating some of the pagan celebrations into the Catholic calendar. As such, Samhain got merged with All Saints' Day, also known as All Hallows' Day, with the evening before being Hallows Evening, eventually turning into Halloween. A further development came following the Guy Fawkes' failed assassination on Protestant King James I and his Parliament. The victory over Catholicism even was celebrated by the Protestants as Guy Fawkes Day, again with bonfires and effigies of unpopular figures being burnt, often the Pope. Children and the poor would go door to door with a Guy Fawkes effigy in a wheelbarrow, begging for money and treats, and this practice eventually was incorporated into Halloween. When the Irish emigrated to America en masse following the 19th century famine, their traditions went with them, including Halloween and that of Jack-o'-lantern. This came from the Irish folktale of Stingy Jack, he fooled the devil into banning him from going to hell, and because of his life of sin, he also couldn't go to heaven. After Jack died, he was condemned to walk between heaven and hell, carrying a lantern which he made of a turnip. And on All Hallows Eve, the Irish would hollow out a turnip, carve a face in it, and place a candle inside to protect themselves from Stingy Jack's wanderings. The turnip eventually became a pumpkin simply because it was easier to carve, I guess. Given these deep traditions, maybe I should reconsider and take my kids trick-or-treating. They have, after all, literally just come home today with the biggest pumpkin I've ever seen, which I can show you here. I can't get the scale right, but normal pumpkin for size, massive pumpkin. Thanks very much for listening. Have a fab weekend.